It begins, as all things begin, with a song, for songs were how the world was made, how the void was divided, and how everything came into being. Songs endure, capable of bringing down dynasties or outlasting events and people. Fat Charlie Nancy's father, however, used them simply for a marvelous night out. Before he arrived, the barman considered the karaoke evening a bust. But the old man, in a spotless green fedora and lemon-yellow gloves, sashayed in, tipped his hat to a table of giggling blonde tourists, and charmed them. The barman relaxed, sensing a good evening. The old man sang twice, once, "What's New Pussycat?" and the second time, he ruined Fat Charlie's life. Fat Charlie was only truly fat for a few years, between 10 and 14, a period marked by his mother leaving his father. Despite shedding the weight, the name clung to him, a nickname given by his father, whose names for things always stuck. He recalled how his father nicknamed a prize-winning boxer, Goofy, and the name became inescapable, even to dog show judges. This naming habit was far from the worst thing about Fat Charlie's father. His roving eye, cigarillos, peculiar tap dancing, and ignorance of world affairs all contributed to the truly worst thing: he was embarrassing. Fat Charlie confessed this to his fiancée, Rosie, in a South London wine bar. He usually avoided discussing his father, separated by 4,000 miles and an ocean. He recounted how his father tricked him into dressing as President Taft for school, promising candy and popularity, leading to a day of public humiliation and tears. His father's response? Hooting laughter, followed by an absurd offer to look for mermaids at the beach, an equally embarrassing but strangely enchanting activity. Rosie, sweet-natured and optimistic, found his father lovely, and insisted he attend their wedding as the life and soul of the party. Fat Charlie, choking on a Brazil nut, vehemently disagreed, declaring his father the most embarrassing person alive and vowing never to invite him. Rosie's icy glare quickly made him backtrack, but it was too late. She deemed it an opportunity to mend fences and build bridges, demanding his father's address or phone number. Fat Charlie, hoping his father had vanished, finally admitted Mrs. Higgler, a family friend, would know. He recalled calling Mrs. Higgler years prior, at his dying mother's request, to contact his father. His father's drunk message claimed business prevented him from visiting, adding his mother was a damn fine woman. Days later, flowers arrived at the hospital, dismissed by his mother but placed honorably by her bed, hinting at a longing for his visit. Fat Charlie hated constantly telling her his father wasn't coming. The worst day was when the doctor said his mother was fading fast. Then, a cacophony erupted in the hospital corridor. A small New Orleans jazz band, led by his father in his signature fedora and lemon-yellow gloves, dancing and shaking hands, playing his mother's favorite song, Yellow Bird. Fat Charlie, mortified, prayed for the earth to swallow him. His father, undeterred by nurses' protests, distributed brown ale and lit a cheroot, prompting a furious charge from a clipboard-wielding woman, allowing Fat Charlie to escape. The next day, his mother was miraculously better, discharged from the hospital, declaring the cancer a false alarm, and announcing plans to travel the world with her life savings. Fat Charlie blamed his father for this bewildering turn of events. He waved his mother off at Heathrow, seeing her younger and happier than he'd remembered. Postcards arrived from Paris, Rome, Athens, Lagos, and Cape Town, and a complaint about Chinese food in China. She died in her sleep in St. Andrews. At the funeral, Fat Charlie half expected his father to arrive dramatically, but he didn't. Instead, he noticed a stranger his own age at the back of the chapel, who gave him a joyless, knowing smile. This man lingered in his thoughts for years. Rosie, eager to unite father and son, pressed Fat Charlie to call Mrs. Higgler, even proposing she come to the wedding. Fat Charlie, dreading the call, found Mrs. Higgler's number and, after her rambling, one-sided conversation, managed to state his intention to invite his father to the wedding. Mrs. Higgler's shocking response, delivered at length, was, "Nobody tell you?" His father was dead. His father had died embarrassingly. At a karaoke night, after belting out, "I am what I am," to a blonde tourist, he'd had a heart attack and toppled off the stage, pulling down the tourist's tube top and exposing her. The image of the exposed breasts haunted Fat Charlie, increasing his mortification. He was a man who avoided embarrassment at all costs, even turning off the TV or leaving a room to escape awkward scenes. In South London, where he'd painstakingly shed his American accent, he now felt only emptiness. Rosie, his comforting rock, reminded him he had her, and gently urged him to make peace with his dad. The next morning, heading to Florida, Fat Charlie found himself at the wrong funeral, loudly proclaiming his love for a stranger's grandmother before realizing his mistake. Mrs. Higgler, a stern but familiar presence, materialized, berating him for his tardiness and sending him to shovel dirt onto his father's modest wooden coffin. Amidst the rain and sweat, Fat Charlie cried, then was embraced by Mrs. Higgler, who told him, "You grew up. Welcome home, Fat Charlie." Afterward, Mrs. Higgler drove him to his father's house, a familiar place from his childhood. Inside, it smelled faintly sweet, filled with books and old photographs, including one of his mother and a curious one that seemed to show two Fat Charlies. Mrs. Higgler casually revealed his father's passion for Italian architecture, a fact Fat Charlie never knew. She admitted she barely knew his father herself, despite 60 years of acquaintance. She shared a memory of kissing him long ago, before he met his mother, and how his mother was her matron of honor. Then, with startling normalcy, she declared, "Your father was a god." Fat Charlie, dismissive at first, was told his father was Anansi, the trickster spider god of stories. Mrs. Higgler explained that his brother got all that god stuff, a revelation that made Fat Charlie smile, thinking it a joke. But Mrs. Higgler insisted the photograph showed him and his brother, who had left when Fat Charlie was a boy, sent away by Mrs. Dunwoody. Fat Charlie, trying to humor her, asked where he could find this mythical brother. Mrs. Higgler whispered that he needed only to tell a spider. Back in London, after a restless night, Fat Charlie arrived at work at the Graham Coates Agency, a place he disliked, where he was consistently overlooked. His boss, Graham Coates, a ferret-like man, immediately chided him for being early and then assigned him to handle Maeve Livingstone, a client whose deceased husband's estate was causing trouble. Fat Charlie telephoned Maeve, who was concerned about her money and mentioned the BBC had already paid royalties. That evening, after drinking most of a bottle of wine, he was startled by Rosie's scream from the bathroom, where a large garden spider sat in the tub. Rosie, despite her fear, insisted he take it outside rather than wash it down the drain. White wine-addled, he managed to coax the spider into a tumbler. Outside, under the yellow sodium light, he remembered Mrs. Higgler's words and, half-jokingly, said to the spider, "If you see my brother, tell him he ought to come by and say hello." The spider scuttled away. That night, Fat Charlie had a vivid, peculiar dream. He was at a Hollywood party, effortlessly charming and cool, leading people to walk on water, in a swimming pool. A spider dropped onto his shoulder, and he spoke to it, saying, "Ask, and you shall receive." Then, all the people in the pool remembered water was liquid and plunged in, while the dreamed Charlie casually walked across their heads and dove into the lights of Los Angeles. Waking up, he saw a blood-orange sunrise. Then, he saw a man by the hedge below his window, the same man from his mother's funeral, who grinned and waved. The doorbell rang. It was the man, his brother, Spider. Spider, taller, leaner, and cooler than Fat Charlie, insisted their father wasn't dead and revealed that Fat Charlie, as an only child, had inherited all the boring parts of their shared heritage, while he, Spider, inherited the god stuff. Spider then walked into a photograph of their mother and Mrs. Higgler, disappearing with a shimmer. The next day, Fat Charlie was distracted at work, even singing at his desk, earning a reprimand from Graham Coates. Maeve Livingstone called again, pressing for her money. Later, Rosie informed him her mother was now enthusiastically involved in wedding planning. That evening, Spider appeared, confirming their father's death after visiting Mrs. Higgler and the grave. Spider suggested they seek wine, women, and song to lift their sorrow. They went to a wine bar where Spider, with ease, procured a dusty bottle of funeral wine, bitter and salty, seasoned with tears of broken-hearted virgins. Drinking it, Fat Charlie felt a profound sense of loss, missing his mother, his childhood, even his father. Spider recounted elaborate, self-serving reasons why he hadn't contacted Fat Charlie sooner. Next, Spider led them to find women, effortlessly charming a birthday party group at a pub, then another, accumulating female admirers who found him amazing. Fat Charlie, feeling awkward, trailed behind. Finally, Spider led them to a karaoke pub for song. Fat Charlie, terrified of singing in public, refused, but was swept inside. Spider sang, "Under the Boardwalk," beautifully, captivating the room. Egged on by a pixie-ish girl named Daisy, Fat Charlie, despite his fear, took the stage to sing, "Unforgettable." But his stage fright paralyzed him, and all he could say into the microphone was, "I think I'm going to be sick," before stumbling off stage. Fat Charlie woke with a crushing hangover, convinced he'd been fired. To his surprise, Daisy, the pixie-ish girl from the pub, was in his bed, naked. She informed him that Spider had already handled his work absence, claiming to be Fat Charlie. After a kill or cure concoction Daisy made, he felt better, and she revealed they hadn't slept together. Spider had merely brought him home. She introduced herself as Daisy. Spider, meanwhile, was having a grand time at Fat Charlie's office, using his God voice to convince everyone he was Fat Charlie, even accessing Graham Coates's computer by claiming to be him. He even told Coates that there were financial irregularities, prompting Coates to call the police, intending to blame Fat Charlie. Rosie's mother then arrived at Fat Charlie's flat, armed with wedding plans and a list of guests, dictating strict terms for the wedding, including a limited number of Fat Charlie's relatives at a lower-tier table. Daisy, clad in Fat Charlie's dressing gown, entered, causing an immediate drop in temperature and an awkward exchange, prompting Fat Charlie to invent that Daisy was his cousin. Rosie's mother left, smiling a ghastly, skull-like smile. Rosie, seeing Fat Charlie, actually Spider, at his office, noticed a striking change in him, finding him more confident and alluring. He admitted to having a brother and took her on a lunch date that continued as a walk along the Thames. Back at his flat, Fat Charlie discovered a bonus check from Coates and found his office unusually tidy. He saw Spider and Rosie kissing, confirming his worst fears. He dreamed of his father on a beach, who spoke cryptically about starfish and then was devoured by worms. Back at Mrs. Dunwoody's, Daisy discovered the initial police report on Graham Coates's alleged fraud and decided to investigate further. Meanwhile, Fat Charlie confronted Spider about kissing Rosie, leading to a brawl. Fat Charlie returned to his flat to find it transformed into a magnificent, tropical paradise by Spider's powers. He called Mrs. Higgler, asking how to make Spider leave, revealing Spider was after Rosie. Mrs. Higgler promised to consult Mrs. Dunwoody. Spider, reclining naked in a hot tub, casually dismissed Fat Charlie's concerns and suggested he go to a movie. Fat Charlie spent the day at the cinema, then discovered Spider and Rosie were, again, together in his room. Rosie, terrified by noises from his spare room, which were really Spider's tropical paradise, thought she heard Fat Charlie screaming. Fat Charlie, meanwhile, was wandering London streets, inexplicably unable to find his way home, until anger cleared his head. He finally hailed a taxi, but the driver also couldn't find Maxwell Gardens, leading to a long, frustrating night. When he finally returned home, Daisy, now an investigator, arrested him for financial irregularities. In police custody, Fat Charlie was visited by Spider, who, now able to teleport, took him to an Italian market square for hot chocolate to discuss their predicament. Fat Charlie confessed he had sought the bird woman's help to get rid of Spider, promising Anansi's bloodline in return for her aid. This brought on the birds, a relentless assault of feathered creatures. To escape, Spider teleported them to Antarctica, then a disused coal mine still pursued by birds. There, in the darkness, Spider revealed Rosie had broken up with both of them. Fat Charlie, oddly, felt it was for the best. They realized the bird woman had given Fat Charlie a feather to seal the deal, and it was likely still with Mrs. Dunwoody. Daisy, meanwhile, had begun to suspect Graham Coates's culpability and confronted him. He, in turn, attacked her, intending to kill her, but she escaped, leading to the discovery of Maeve Livingstone's body in his secret room. Maeve, now a ghost, discovered she could only interact with immaterial things, like the recently deceased Mr. Nancy, who, also a duppy, taught her the mechanics of ghosthood and offered to dance with her. He explained how Anansi, his father, won all the stories from Tiger, transforming the world from a dark, violent place to one of wit and trickery. Maeve, still focused on revenge, asked Graham Coates's location. Mr. Nancy offered to steer her in the right direction. Graham Coates, now a fugitive on St. Andrews, constantly agitated by his newfound idleness, lured Rosie and her mother to his clifftop house under the guise of offering baths, then imprisoned them in his meat locker, convinced they were spies sent by Fat Charlie. Meanwhile, Maeve, now able to move freely, arrived at Coates's house, confronting him in his tiger form, mocking him into submission. Rosie and her mother escaped, and Graham Coates, fatally injured, was found by the police. Fat Charlie, now on St. Andrews, sought Mrs. Higgler, finding her through her relatives, the concierge Benjamin and maitre d', Clarissa. He learned Mrs. Higgler had the feather he'd traded with the bird woman. He was shocked to find Daisy on the island, also pursuing Coates. When Coates appeared at their dinner, threatening them, Fat Charlie, recalling Spider's performance, took the microphone and began to sing, Under the Boardwalk. He poured all his terror and anger into the song, improvising lyrics and captivating the audience. To protect Daisy, he publicly proposed marriage to her, and gave her the lime, which now carried the power of his father. In the ensuing chaos, Graham Coates vanished. Meanwhile, Spider, still staked in Tiger's world, used his remaining strength to pull free, then gathered stones, anticipating Tiger's return. In the meat locker, Rosie, realizing her mother hadn't been eating due to stress, attempted to break the chains by swinging on them. Spider, confronted by Tiger, taunted him with the tiger rag, and when Tiger attacked, he struck him with a rock, injuring him. A small, seven-legged clay spider, created by Spider's blood and spittle, appeared on his hand, announcing it had brought warriors, an army of spiders. Tiger was overwhelmed by venomous bites and fled, roaring in agony. Fat Charlie, now able to navigate worlds, found himself on a bridge with his deceased father, Anansi, who was fishing. Anansi admitted he wasn't truly dead and that Mrs. Dunwoody's banishment had split Fat Charlie into two, creating Spider. He chided Fat Charlie for his past embarrassment, but then kissed his forehead, a gesture of pride, and gave him his green fedora with the feather in the hatband, claiming it suited him. Fat Charlie, now infused with confidence, found he could navigate the world by sensing the web of connections. He confronted the bird woman, demanding Spider's return. She returned his brother's tongue, telling him Spider was in Tiger's world. Fat Charlie followed the web to Spider, restored his tongue, and was told, "Nice hat." Back in Coates's house, Rosie and her mother, using a rusty chain, attacked Graham Coates and escaped from the meat locker, just as Maeve Livingstone, the ghostly dancer, confronted Coates in his tiger form, mocking and beating him until he reverted to human form and collapsed, bleeding. Police and ambulances arrived. Charlie and Spider, now reunited, went to the hospital to see Rosie and her mother. Rosie's mother was dying, and Coates was in intensive care. Outside Rosie's room, Charlie and Daisy realized Graham Coates was dead, and Rosie's mother was unlikely to survive. Charlie, wanting to save Rosie's mother, decided they must go to the beginning of the world, where the caves are, and sing. Before the gathered animal gods, Charlie sang his life story, how he was split into two, and about his father. He sang about Tiger and Graham Coates, weaving their roars into his song, making Tiger's roar inherently ridiculous. He also sang a long and happy life for Rosie's mother. Charlie realized he loved singing and would continue doing so, not for grand magic, but to bring small moments of happiness. Spider, now able to navigate the real world, took on the job of making Rosie's mother ask for food, a miracle in itself, and found his calling as a chef on St. Andrews. Rosie, now working for a charity, never showed if she missed London. Her mother, still difficult, moved near them, constantly pressuring them for grandchildren. Charlie, now a lean singer with a collection of fedoras, had a son named Marcus. One morning, he took Marcus to the beach. Marcus asked about presidents, and Charlie, recalling his father's humiliation, imparted the knowledge. They sang "Yellow Bird," then a mermaid appeared, joining their song. Charlie put his fedora on Marcus, and they danced up the beach, singing a wordless song. Tiger and Coates, trapped in the cave, found themselves unable to escape or cease bothering each other, forever reliving their torment. Mr. Nancy, resting comfortably in his grave, found peace, occasionally irritated by Mrs. Dunwoody's noisy funeral above him, and mused about watching his grandchildren grow. The stories, finally, were truly Anansi's.